Hi, thank you for watching Amethyst Plants. I'm Amy and I love plants. Today, I want to give you an update on my Colocasia Mojito plants that I ordered from Daylily Nursery about a week, 10 days ago I got them, I think. And I have been caring for them. I started off by placing them near a grow light, about a foot away from a grow light to have them perk up. And they perked up out of the box. They were a little droopy out of the box. They perked up. And then I moved them over to a shady area and I placed them on a pebble tray because these plants are typically or can be grown near ponds and near water banks. So I know that they like a lot of water and shady areas. I'm going to show you how they're doing now and tell you what my plans are for them. Okay, Colocasia Mojito time. I included a couple pictures so you could see what they did look like. They were gorgeous. Brace yourselves. Womp womp. So, these are both plants. I am going to tell you what I think I did wrong with them before I tell you how I am going to attempt to save them. Okay, so here we go. So I mentioned how I was caring for them when I first got them at the beginning of this video. I think my first mistake was putting them near a grow light. These plants like shade, and I don't think that they should be exposed to any type of artificial light, even if it is a really high grade grow light that's meant for plants. That was mistake number one. Moving on to mistake number two, this pebble tray. I made this pebble tray, it's just a little dish. I put rocks in it and I set the planters that the colocasias came in on top of the rocks so it wasn't touching the bottom of the plate. And I put some water in the bottom of the plate, hoping that that would mimic the environment of a riverbank or near the water like Colocasias tends to like. Okay, I did this, not this. Our yard work happens on Wednesdays, so excuse any extra background noise that you might hear. We're just gonna keep going. So, mistake number two, I believe, was using a pebble tray. I don't think that these plants need a pebble tray. I think that their roots are gonna be able to soak up any water that they need as long as you water them thoroughly and you check it and keep the water moist. If you have a moisture meter, that's what I'm gonna plan to use in the future for these. Okay, so moving on. Mistake number three, I believe, was overwatering in general. I had these colocasias on my pebble tray and I moved them actually kind of right behind me to this shadier, I guess, not super shady looking now, but an area that does not receive any direct light and receives lower indirect light. I also put them near a humidifier or air diffuser. I'm not sure if that was a good idea. That I'm not gonna list as a mistake because I'm not entirely sure if that was good for them or not. I know for sure putting them near a grow light was a mistake, and I know for sure putting them on a pebble tray was a mistake, okay? So, because they were on a pebble tray, these colocasias developed a little bit of root rot. I could tell that when I picked up the container and looked at the bottom and saw there's actually a little bit still in there. Just some really gross little rotten roots. So here's what I did to try and prevent that, or try and, gardening noise, to try and mediate that the best way that I could. I took the colocasias, I took them out of the soil that they were in, and I took them outside and I hosed them off very gently, the best that I could to remove any excess soil. Once I did that, I took them back inside and I mixed 1 cup of water to, no, 2 cups of water to 1 cup of hydrogen peroxide in this tub. And I took the colocasias and put them in this tub with their roots and kind of let them sit in there for about an hour and a half. This was my first time trying to use hydrogen peroxide to cure a plant. I've heard that you should use hydrogen peroxide the same way that you use medicine. Use it for your plants or on your plants when they're sick or when you notice something isn't right, rather than using it as a supplement in your regular routine. So let's talk about what happened when I put the Colocasia mojitos into the water and the hydrogen peroxide. Here's what the water and hydrogen peroxide mixture looked like after I soaked the roots of both mojito plants in it. You can see there's a lot of rotted root matter in there, some strange artificial like packing material almost. So I'm glad that I soaked the roots of these plants to get it out. All right, so I also tried to use hydrogen peroxide and water to disinfect the soil that they came in. I took about the same mix. I think this time it was 1 cup of water and 1 cup of hydrogen peroxide in my watering can, and I poured it over the remaining soil that was in their planters. I let it stay outside to try to dry, and it's not dry yet, so I'm just gonna take it out of the plastic planters and pour it into this tub here. One thing that you might have been able to see in the video that I thought was interesting is I found in this soil, and I'm not sure if it's here now, I think it might have all gotten washed off, some little like almost what looks like plastic packing pieces, which I'm sure worked great for the growing or shipping process, but I am really glad that I took these out of the soil that they shipped in. That's something that I would recommend doing or considering doing for whatever plants you get shipped. Now, succulents, I won't necessarily say the same thing because I don't have as much experience with them. I am going to take this soil, let it continue to dry outside and save it. Because I want to replant these colocasias right now, I'm probably not going to use this soil to replant them, but I might save it for a future colocasia or for some type of similar plant like an alocasia. All right, let's talk now about how I am going to try my very best to save and revive these plants, because I am determined. I really love Colocasia mojitos, and as sad as these look, I want to point out that I have 2 separate plants in here, or 2 separate bulbs. Colocasias are bulb plants, just like alocasias. I'm not sure if those constitute or fall into the aeroid category or not. I'll have to do a little research on that. But when I rinsed their roots out and took a little bit of a closer look, I saw that each one did have a bulb. So now that their roots have been disinfected, you can see they are nice, healthy, and clean. I soaked them overnight in this mason jar. And I noticed when I woke up this morning that they looked quite a bit sadder than they did last night when I put them in here. And here's what that tells me. When I look at these plants, 2 separate plants, I see that each plant still has 2 viable leaves. 1 new one is coming out of each plant, and the leaf that the new plant is coming out of has still survived. You can get those mojito vibes a little bit from them. So what I'm gonna do when I repot these is I am going to cut off the lower remaining wilted leaves. Gosh, I wish I knew more about leaf pressing and preserving, because these would be the leaves to do it with. I'm gonna show you how I do that, and I'm gonna show you what my repotting plans are for these colocasias. Because I am new to colocasias, I'm going to separate them rather than potting them together, and I'm gonna try 2 different methods to kind of monitor them, see how they do, and that way I'll be able to give you some more updates in the future. So I just went outside to further rinse down the roots of these colocasias. They're really hanging on to this bark material that was in the potting mix that they were shipped in. I do want to try and plant one in Lecka, so I'm going to hand pick as much more of this bark as I can out of here. For the other one that I'm going to be planting in soil, I rinsed it off and I'm going to leave it in water until I plant it in soil, but that's going to be enough for me. when I went outside, we have a vertical vegetable garden that we just got this year. And we planted a bunch of vegetables in it. There's a lot of lettuce heads, so it's really full. I'll try to include a picture. And we found this weekend a bird's nest in it. So I was so excited because some local bird thought that it would be a good place to build a home, and I did my best to not disturb it, but I did move some of the branches that fell onto one of the lower rungs. And I hadn't seen any evidence of the bird since, so I was thinking that maybe I had disturbed it too much and it had gone somewhere else to make a home. When I just went outside to rinse these guys off with the hose, the bird flew out of the bird's nest as soon as I opened the door, scared the crap out of me, but as soon as I realized what it was, I was so excited. So that was pretty cool. I will include a picture of the planter and the bird's nest so you can see. As I am trying to further pick out any bark pieces of the roots here, I just want to mention I'm noticing that these have a pretty interesting root system. They have some really strong, white, healthy roots, and then it looks like little baby roots are branching off, and that's what all of this like husk and bark is getting stuck in. So I'm gonna do my best, but I'm not gonna be too picky. I think it's gonna be okay if there's a little bit of bark in there with the Lecka. So I'm just gonna keep going and I'll show you what it looks like when I've decided to be done. Now that I have gotten the roots as clean as I am willing to spend time on them, I'm going to quickly disinfect my knife here. I've been enjoying using a knife to propagate or take my cuttings because it makes me feel fancy. And it is one blade less work to disinfect, so why effing not? Okay. Like I said, I'm only going to leave the 2 leaves on here. And I think, so I'm just gonna kind of cut away. I'm gonna kind of do a disinfect wipe after each cut because I just don't know. Okay, we got one more we're gonna cut away. I'll try and bring this one a little closer to the camera so you can see. I'm taking a sharp disinfected knife and I'm going down the sheath where the leaf is, just really, really gently. That one was a little harder. There we go. Cutting that off. And these will callus over. So now I still have one pretty Mojito leaf, a new baby unfurling, and these are going to go into Lecka. We're gonna give it a try. So I am going to, actually I need to go rinse this out. It's got some dirt in it. This is the plant I'm gonna pot it in. So let me go rinse it and I'll show you the Lecka planting process. So maybe some of you are thinking, Amy, what the fuck is Lecka? And I'll tell you, it's basically clay balls. It is expanded aggregated clay that can be used as a soil substitute. This plant right here is planted in Lecka, and unfortunately it has a black pot. I need to invest in some clear orchid planting pots because one of the benefits about planting in Lecka is that you can see the roots of the plant much more easily than you can in soil. Another benefit is you're not dealing with any pests that you might encounter with a plant that's planted in soil. And these guys are set up to be a little bit more of a self-watering plant contraption than other plants are. I like to put a wick at the bottom of mine. That's what these strings are. And the wick basically aids the water in getting up to the roots of the plant. This plant has been in Lecka for about 4 months and it's doing just fine. I have this pot here. Again, wish it was clear, but it's not. But I did choose this pot because it has a lot of holes in the bottom. And what I'm gonna do is take my wick or string, which is actually baby blanket yarn, believe it or not, and I'm going to weave it through some of the holes in the bottom. I'll show you what it looks like once I've done that, and the planting process after that is gonna take just a few seconds. Lecka is pretty great and it's easy to work with once you have it down. So I put 2 wicks in it this time so that it would be able to access more water. My knife is on top holding the loops because I'm going to start putting my Lecka in before I pull these loops down. I want about an inch of Lecka before the top of my wick, and then I want a little bit more Lecka before my roots, okay? So let's take some, put it in here. Now, some of these, oh damn it, are gonna be too small and fall out the bottom because this pot has holes rather than slits, but that's okay. All right, I've got the bottom covered. I'm gonna take my knife out and I'm gonna kind of pull down here to tighten my wicks a little bit, and I will show you what that looks like. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with more Lecka and cover my wicks up. Okay, can't really see them. I'll show you. Of course, as I move the pot, you can see it, but god damn it. Excuse me, I'm just cursing a lot in this one, aren't I? I'm so sorry. Okay, thank you guys for being so patient. I promise we're almost there. Plant, Lecka. It's gonna go in there. Balls all on top. Caught it. I purchased this Lecka from Amazon. If you're lucky enough to find some at IKEA, I believe it's labeled Olda planting material. Oh, something. Get some. It's the cheapest there. But I think people are catching on to that because it's been sold out at many IKEAs. Alrighty. I'm gonna take my scissors and trim the wick at the bottom. It definitely doesn't need to be that big, that long. And there we have it. I might put a little bamboo stake in here to kind of give this some support because I would hate to have these plants just totally flop over and crap out on me. I think they're beautiful and I really want to try my best to revive them any way I can. So I'll show you what that looks like once I've put that in and set that contraption up. My second alocasia, I am going to do the same process of disinfecting my knife and carefully cutting off the lower 2 leaves. This one I think actually might have the lower 3 leaves I'm gonna be cutting off, just like the first one did. Then I'm going to be planting that in soil in a small pot. I will show you what that looks like once that is planted too, and I'll try and do another update video in a couple weeks to show you how each of these are doing and let you know which planting medium seems to serve the plant better. Thanks for watching. So it's been a couple days. I've planted one of the plants in Lecka like I've shown you in the other soil, and they just keep deteriorating and getting worse. So I wanted to show you what they look like after a couple days of being planted in each. The Lecka is definitely doing not very great. This is the one leaf that was still sturdy and full and really pretty when I replanted it. And this is the new leaf that, I mean, the stem is still pretty firm, whereas this stem is very droopy, you can see, but I don't have super high hopes for this one, unfortunately. The one that I planted in soil looks just a little better. I just put some moss on the top. The leaf that was nice and full and pretty is yellowing quite a bit and it's pretty droopy too. And the new leaf that's coming out is quite sturdy and looks like it might be pretty. So I'm not quite sure what my mistakes were with these other than what I reviewed in the video earlier. I think that these plants might just be kind of floppy in general. I was at Home Depot the other day and I saw a bunch of brand new black Colocasia elephant ears. I'll include a picture of that. And even all of the best ones had at least 2 of the big leaves kind of flopped over like this one was, but without any support. So that could just be the nature of Colocasia plants. Regardless, I'm really happy that I got to experiment with these because I still think that these variegated leaves are fascinating and just super gorgeous. If you have any tips for how to keep Colocasias happier than I did, please let me know below. I'm thinking maybe outdoors is the way to go with these, but we'll see. Thanks for watching.